the meeting to order. We have everybody here but Ashley tonight, and we still have a little time till we have another student member.
Yeah, I do think it would be very shortly. I don't know if Ashley has any input.
I have no idea.
Okay. I have talked to the advisors, and I know they're going to get us a recommendation.
And so additions to agenda, I think the second agenda was complete.
Correct. There are no additions.
Okay, and then approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
We have a motion from Rick, a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Carried. Okay, public comment. Anybody here for public comment? Okay. Then we're going to move to the consent agenda. And we have the minutes that everybody got to look at from September 24th and October 8th. And then Cheryl on the bills.
Yes, I had a chance to go in and review the bills, and there was nothing outstanding. Just everything is going along smoothly.
Okay. Anything else?
Let me just run through the personnel side of it. So we do have 3 hires. Sam Elliott is a food service. That's a replacement of a position. Abby Fegum, Matt Dickhausen is hiring her on to work some fitness center hours. We do have the list of winter activity assignments. Again, it is just those highlighted in yellow, the winter side of the house. That's what's being recommended for approval today. And then we do have one leave request from Erica Renke, who would be taking a maternity leave and then returning after her maternity leave. Questions at all on the consent agenda?
Okay, we'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Thomas, and I'll make a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Carried. Okay, then we're going to move down to communication items.
I have just a couple of items. First of all, the City Council is doing their second City Council work session. I think they're doing them quarterly, but they are planning on having the township, the school board, and then the City Council at a City Council work session. So if you're interested in attending that, it is October 29th at 5 p.m. at City Hall. If you could just let me know if you're planning on attending, that would be great. I think the last time they did this, we had two board members, I think that made it, maybe 3.
So,
Was Ashley there as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there were 3. It'd be my recommendation that we not have a quorum at that work session. So again, if there are 3 board members that want to attend, just let me know, and I'm planning on attending as well. I don't really have anything on our agenda as far as reporting things going on. I'll talk just a little bit about the building project and kind of where that's at, update that. I think we can talk a little bit about Town and Country Days and how construction might impact that, but aside from those 2 things, that's really the list that I have. So if there's other board members that have things that they feel the city and township should be aware of, let me know, and can certainly communicate those. The second item, I just want to make a note that the bond sale was successful on October 17th. So we do have our proceeds from that bond sale. PMA Financial is our financial advisor. They have invested those proceeds, and they have a schedule as far as what we need for liquid assets in order to get the project started, the design phase taken care of, and then as we move into construction, they have a schedule, a draw schedule on it, and so they'll work with us on that. But everyone should know that the bond sale was successful, and the proceeds are currently sitting in investment. The last thing I just want to visit a little bit about is MREA conference. MREA is Minnesota Rural Education Association. It is a advocacy group and a lobbying group for rural school districts. We are currently not a member. Fred Nolan's their executive director, and I've had multiple conversations with Fred. Obviously, he would like all rural school districts in Minnesota to be a member of MREA, and he has the vast majority of them. I think there's fewer than 20 that fit the definition of rural that aren't members. So MREA does run a new member special, and here's where it gets a little complicated because they have a fall conference in November. And I was looking at the conference, there's a couple things that I think would be extremely valuable for Mr. Orline or myself to be able to go and participate in. As I look at it, though, it's almost cheaper for us to just purchase a first-year membership because they discount it by 50% and they give you 3 seats at the conference than just sending people to the conference without being a member. So I'm still trying to work with MREA about that, but just know that might be something that is coming out to board members in the near future. That I may be asking that we do that. I guess, in my opinion, if we're going to send them 2 registrations and that's going to be more than the cost of a membership for the remainder of the year, I would advocate just being a member. We can see what MREA is like, and then next year we can make a decision if it's something we want to continue our membership with or if we want to not. So just an FYI with MREA, you're going to see more about it. Those are the 3 items I have. Any questions for me?
Is there a reason why we haven't been a part of that? Or
So
do you know
right now,
history?
the group that we have been a member of is Schools for Equity and Education, C. And there are some districts that are members to both, but it seems like schools either belong to one or the other.
Okay.
There are a few that do have membership in both, but we never have, as best I can tell. So, yeah, they're both good organizations. They both serve a lot of the same purposes. C tends to be a little more kind of the I-94 corridor and metropolitan membership, whereas MREA represents people in far southwest Minnesota all the way up to the northwest angle and stuff. And so it really is committed to rural education.
Are they as active as C?
Well, so it's yes and no. So the one thing that's nice about C is their regional meetings they're local, and they have a lot of guest speakers that come in that provide a lot of valuable information. The issue with MREA is MREA literally stretches from corner of the state to the other corner, so it's really hard for them to have that local presence. But where MREA probably makes up and exceeds what C does is when they are talking about their legislative lobbying and what they're doing at the Capitol is probably enhanced compared to what C is doing. So it's kind of pros and cons with both. I don't know that one organization is necessarily better than the other, but they're both meet some of our needs.
What does the membership cost?
I believe it's capped at, no matter what your enrollment is, it's capped at $2,200 annually. I think based on our enrollment, ours would be somewhere right around that $2,000 number is what it would be.
Jacob, this is what you've been talking about for a year, better probably.
So if there's a 3rd seat available at that conference, would you have some interest in it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Let me, I'm going to have some more conversations with them and I'll get back in touch with people.
Okay. Committee reports.
I don't know that we have a lot. The design committee's in the agenda.
Yeah, the design committee is an agenda. I believe our support staff was before the last meeting, wasn't it?
Yep, and that's in the agenda too, so I don't
Good there.
know that we really have a lot.
Okay, student representative?
I have a
Anything
couple
for
of
us?
things. So, well, last time I talked, I said it was homecoming coming up. Well, we had our homecoming dance and game night, and so I don't know if you guys know anything about it, but we had board games, beanbags, spike ball, ping pong, and 9 square. And then we gave out gift cards to the top teams. So that really increased our attendance. The only problem with that was no one really danced. So we're still working out how we're gonna fix that for the other following dances. And then I know seniors have been meeting with Jackie to talk about next semester and make sure we're on track for graduating, which is crazy that we're already thinking about that. Like the school year's going really fast. Middle school had their rake day last week. I mean, I guess I don't really know much about that, but, and then we had our first prom committee meeting, so we're planning that already and ready to keep things rolling, so that's it.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so old business, we don't have anything there, so we'll move to new business and the baseball stadium lease. So Matt, I'm gonna probably just
Sure. So again, this is a draft. This isn't in any way a final agreement. But Chris Stanley's also here. If there are questions, I think he would also be able to let some information as well. So I'll just run through this, and then after that, we can have some discussion and some questions if there are any. So the intent of this obviously would be update the date on page 1. Moving to page 3 of the agreement, the intent would be to enter a 5-year agreement. That would get us through September of 2024. There would be a clause in here that basically would say that the agreement would remain in effect unless one of the sides decided to terminate. And there's a process in which how those entities can terminate the agreement. But this would remain in effect if the successor agreement isn't negotiated yet.
You need an editorial change there. Top 9, it says 3 seasons, should be 5 seasons.
Thank you. When we get to the rent portion, this is the major difference with this. I was hoping that maybe we could just possibly simplify how this agreement is going to work. And then rather than forgo this whole rent thing, we would go to a situation where there would be a rental. The concept behind this would be the busiest months obviously are June, July, and August. The rent for those months would be $700. There are also times throughout the other months in which the Baseball Association is using that facility, so we would continue $100 per month rental for those off-season months, the 9 off-season months, which would come to $3,000 annually. There's language in here that as the association logs volunteer hours, if those volunteer hours are associated with paragraph 8, which is actually what the school's responsibilities are, then those volunteer hours could actually be credited towards their rent. We do stipulate that it would be based on the Group 6 custodial hourly rate of our custodial master agreement. To give you an idea, that rate right now is just over $14 per hour. Rent would be due on October 15th of each calendar year. And then rather than going with the usage fee, we would remove that usage fee and just follow a rental agreement. The remainder of this contract, as you go to page 5, where it talks about association rights and responsibilities, the big change here is also putting "and other events." Originally, when this was written, it was written essentially for amateur baseball games and practices. I do think it's important to put that "and other events" in there because the Baseball Association is sponsoring events such as this last summer they had the 12 or 13U state baseball tournament here. So again, that would be one of those other events that would be included in that. The insurance limits, liability limits and stuff continue the same. The process as far as the sale of malt liquor is the same as the original agreement. This agreement would be in place for all of the amateur baseball games, and then any events outside of that would have to come back to this board, and those would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. And then we just simply updated the address at the end on page 10 of the agreement. So that is the 25-cent tour. Discussion or questions about the draft. This is not an action item this evening, so the point here is to be able to have some discussion, get some questions answered, and then this will come back next month.
On page 3, I would just recommend striking out non-school months because sometimes we have school in June. So there's not really a need to put that in there.
Sure.
Chris, how does the association feel about the change of the rent policy?
We haven't really talked about it much.
Okay.
Our board has not seen this, Matt and I just talked about it last week or the before, whatever. I said, well, let's go to school board, and we actually will probably be getting together on Sunday, and that'll talk about, bring it to them and say, hey guys, here's it. We had discussion about it on the open house, right? School open house we met, and our guys definitely had some questions and stuff, and some concerns, I guess, but I think from what Matt and I talked about, we could live with this.
Well, I was gonna say, under the old system, you had to be keeping track of every penny, and, I mean, it just seemed complicated to me.
It is very complicated.
Yeah, okay.
This is much less complicated. Now we just need to keep track of our hours and stuff, and
Right.
and we did that this last year, and it wasn't that difficult. I mean, I have a book here, and you can't keep track of all of Kenny's hours out there because he's out there all the time. But for the most part, I kept track of everybody else, or tried to at least, told the guys that stuff. So.
Out of curiosity, how many hours, if you have it?
200 and that was like 278 or something when we kept track of something like that. Something, it was right in that range. So,
That's a lot.
yeah, we're out there a lot. I mean, when you fertilize it and stuff, it needs to be cut a lot, which sometimes kids do, sometimes we do. I don't know.
So in other
Two
words,
state tournaments this year, we probably were out there a little bit more than if we didn't have any event, big event coming up. I mean, it'd be less probably.
looks to me like we owe you some money.
I just ran the calculation. I'm like, I think you're coming out.
We're not in here to make money.
Well, no, I know that, I'm just saying,
No, we.
looks like it
and
pretty
that's-
much balances
yeah,
out.
and,
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things you know, and it's not, this isn't part of the rent or anything, but just for you guys, maybe to be made aware of what other things that we did do out there this year is, I mean, we spent $697.60 on just hilltopper and conditioner on the field. We bought a mower that's used on other fields for $732. We fixed the PA system for $773. More paint and hilltopper and conditioner for $771, and then we put a new batter's eye out there for $1,703 this last year too. So those are not things that would be considered part of that stuff, but also the things that we continue to do. Just keep. There's a lot of upkeep. I mean, it's a beautiful facility. Keep it looking good.
Yep.
I had a question on in the original agreement, there was supposed to be a percentage of the profits
Right.
turned to the school, but we never heard anything about what
We did that for about the first 3 years, and to be honest with you, the last couple of years, I don't think we've really even talked about it. Or we did write a check for $2,500 or something like that for the electricity and gas or something like that that was used down there. So, and since that first year, I mean, I could tell you our profits are very, very minimal, especially after expenses. We spend, we spend $1,200 alone on insurance for liquor liability and then for liability. They're both $600 or something, which liquor liability last year, we didn't even hardly sell $600 in beer, much less net. Because we only have 5 pirate games at home, I think. So, I mean, when we don't have amateur tournaments and we don't have that, we keep it because of that, but we only played Roscoe. We didn't play like Henry, we didn't. Then we played Roscoe Regal and a couple other home games, and that was okay. It was a shortened season. It happens when you have a whole bunch of high school kids on your team and they go to the state tournament. You don't have much time to play amateur baseball games. So we don't play many. Now, 3-4 years from now, that'll change. But we don't play a lot of games right now because I don't have any pitching. I'm a pitcher during high school. So we can't do that. So our profits are not very much. And we did do this year. Some of the ways that we paid for this was having the 13U state tournament here, which brought in 15 teams from all over the state, mostly from northern up here. And it was a fantastic tournament, but it was a ton of work. They want us to have it again next year. We said no, just because running 2 fields and having 6 games a day on both fields was kind of insane. It's like 24 games up there in 2 days. We don't have the manpower to do it every year.
When you listed all that money that you guys spent out there, roughly what did that total? I'm somewhere over $3,500.
Oh, yeah, there's 1,500, that's, and 1,700, that's 32, plus another 14, so that's 4,600 right there.
Okay, I wasn't tracking it when you were listing them
Plus the
out.
hours you put in.
Plus the hours and stuff, so,
Right.
I don't know, I mean, I think we do our fair share, and we're willing to, continue to do that, and, if we did nothing out there and we were making big profits, then our $3,000 just to pay to the school would be fair, I guess, but.
Well, I think that's one of those expenses that we knew was going on, we just
Right.
didn't know what they were.
You don't, and.
We don't have any
We
idea.
didn't really know how much time we're putting out there either, and.
Just that somebody's there all the time seems like.
It is, I mean, probably better off not to have that in the newspapers where our wives read it. But we are there. We are out there all the time in the summer for those 3 months. I mean, we spend a lot of time, but it's, for those of us that are out there, we love to do it too, so we'll continue to do it.
I will tell you just on the side, when we put this agreement together, when this all came around, it was a Bearcat to get somewhere close. And that here we sit, and a lot of what we originally put together is still intact.
It is.
So we weren't, all the time that we spent on it, we were trying, the agreement was in place before they started the project. Because we felt when they started the project, we wanted to be a 100% happy note. From then on, we didn't want to be anybody out there working and helping these guys and talking about a contract. We wanted it all done. So actually, when you came back with it, Matt, I'm just surprised at the little bit that actually changed.
Yeah, I guess I would say that the intent of the original agreement and everything is fully in place. I don't know that there's, the switching to a rental versus usage fee, I think, is the big.
Pretty much just so we know. All right, it's $3,000 it's gonna pass this year, guys. We can get out there and work it off, or we can pay it. And that's our choice, I guess. We know that going in.
So
That's pretty easy to sell to our board.
Yep.
Any other questions or anything? Again, this is not an action item. Chris needs to take this to the association board. And then I'm thinking that this will come back at November, and Chris will have some feedback from them. And I'm thinking you would have a draft with the 3 years changed to 5 years, and with that other page 3 issue cleaned up. And then in November, we'd be looking at approving a new agreement.
I'm wondering if we should figure another way to put this wording for working it off. If we basically pay them for custodial hours for volunteers, are we going to run into some issues with some other groups that want that same type of agreement for rental of our facilities? I mean, is there a potential?
That's a
for it?
good question, I guess.
Who else?
I'm looking at this from the other side of the perspective. The other side to that question is, if there's another organization that wants to come in and sign a rental agreement with us for $3,000 or $4,000 and donate 300 hours of volunteer time to keep our facilities pristine, I would advocate that we enter that agreement.
Well, I'm looking at it from both angles, though. Is some other group going to want to work off their custodial fee that they have to pay for renting the facilities? Some facilities,
We don't have
somewhere.
any other,
The vast majority of who's using, and Matt Dickhausen would be able to answer
Yeah,
this
he has those
exactly, but the
papers
vast
about it,
majority
so.
of the groups that are using our facilities or renting our facilities are those nonprofit impacting student age children. And so we really aren't charging them rent.
Or custodial?
And again, Matt would have more of that than I.
This
but-
agreement is between us and the Baseball Association. It's not
Yeah.
between any other group.
Correct.
So they would have to fall under whatever the school policy is.
Yeah, and we have a rental and usage.
Right.
um,
So this doesn't,
JO
this would only apply to
Exactly.
them unless we made an exception, I would
Right.
say. I don't think that's a problem.
Well, for me, I look at a triple thing here. So even if you work all the rent off, there was still $4,500 that you spent. So it had to be done, whatever you did, you didn't throw your money away, I'm assuming. So it was something that needed to be done. So do we look at that as almost like $4,500 to us for, are you following me? It's kind of like it's unusual, but they're in, to have it that way, but it looks like that third part of that, the rent thing. Because I can see where it looks like we may not have any rent. Amount of time they put in, may wash that right out. But here we have $4,500 and nobody asked them to do that. And it didn't come to you to put new sound in or any of this or whatever you had.
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure it's clear that the Baseball Association is very good about talking with the school. I mean, they're not running rogue out there. I mean,
And we got the people that did the football field, we found out, okay, who'd you guys use? Our sound system stinks, because it cracks all the time, when you plug something in, you know, and those people out there. But they said, hey, these are good people to use, call them, and we did, yeah. You know,
Okay.
Came out and fixed it, I mean, same thing as we'll talk to everybody here about, I mean, we, at our meeting with Max and Matt and stuff, says, what do you know, what's needed, you know, there's no bullpens out there yet, that needs to change in the near future too. I mean, there's not many ballparks to this standard that don't have a bullpen at all. So I mean, there's things that, there certainly isn't everything out there yet, and we'll continue to slowly, as we can, we're not gonna come and ask for money for it, or anything like that, we'll slowly work our way there, so.
Other questions?
To stay in line with Title IX, are you still working with the softball?
Yeah, whenever they can, they don't answer us, they don't, we've offered myriad of things, I can't, we haven't quit, so.
That sounds like we're going to be upgrading our softball
And
stadium.
we've offered to,
yeah, that was one of the agenda items at our August meeting. And so
we've offered to help
Yeah.
where needed. We've got the expertise, we've got guys that will do it, and we do. Like Kenny, he blows out the softball fields, he fixes the softball fields, all those sprinkler systems.
I've noticed him out there.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we do, to be honest with you, there's just not as much work out there either because it's a dirt area. I mean, you don't have to take as good a care of it as a softball field as you do a baseball field. There's not as much work, it's not big. So,
So other questions? Okay, you can talk to your group. Matt, you can just let us know when we're...
thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. So let's go to B, electronic fund transfer. And I think I'm going to send that right back to you, Matt.
Yeah, so this is my learning experience with the auditors. What you're looking at in the agenda, most of that is verbatim from our July organizational meeting. The item in bold is what I would like added so that our auditors are happy and we are in compliance with what they want as far as approving authorized electronic fund transfers.
I'll make a motion that we
Thanks,
approve
Rick.
that.
We have a motion
I'll
to
second.
approve from Rick, second from Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Then we are going to move to the design team updates. And everybody has it. Maggie, thank you. You've been doing really good keeping the notes up. I've not heard of any questions, but...
Can I just
think they're all
start with
coming your
kind of
way.
an
Go for it.
update with where things are at? So Thursday of this week, on the 24th, UNESCO's coming back out, and they're going to meet with our CTE instructors. So it'll be myself and Mr. Orline, our CTE instructors. I think Mr. Dickhausen's going to join us as well, but we're going to sit down and start working through that. I'm assuming the full design team then will get back together on October 28th. That's the next meeting. I think that's an 8 a.m. meeting on the 28th. But I'm assuming there'll be a recap of that CTE meeting. That'll be a piece of that October 28th one. My understanding in talking with UNESCO, they're probably going to have 2 to 3 of these CTE design meetings with our instructors. And again, the content and the information from those meetings will be in note form and available to everybody as we move forward as well. But that's going to happen here at the end of the week, or at least get started.
Okay. Okay, so then let's move to the support staff employment policies.
We have met with the support staff. There's a few items that we are going to make some changes to their policy handbook. First of all, rates of pay would be 1.5% increase plus step, very similar to what we've done with the other groups, or the other hourly groups. Group insurance is going to work towards that $7,000 contribution for the 2021 school year. Again, the insurance contribution is going to just be simply based on 30-hour work week. If you have a 30-hour work week, you will qualify for that contribution. Leaves of absence, we did just talk with the group. We have 2 groups right now that are doing a pilot of discretionary leave or paid time off versus categorical leave. And so we just had a little discussion that depending on how those go, if those pilots are successful and if both the employees and the district see value in that discretionary leave model, we did communicate that most likely this group would probably be on discretionary leave in the near future, the next cycle we get to. Vacation would be changed to align with the custodial contract. Basically, 10 days of vacation is what an employee would qualify for years 1 through 3 of service. Then after that, starting with year 4, they would earn an additional day each year of service up to when they would hit their maximum of 20 days. The 20 days maximum is the same as it's always been. It's just now they accumulate those on a regular annual basis rather than having 2 different tiers in which they accumulate those. And then 403B, starting in the 2nd year, the district would offer a 403B contribution of $500, be matching. So obviously the employee would have to contribute $500 as well. And then that 403B contribution would offset the severance language that's currently in that policy handbook. So again, everything that's in here is pretty much very similar, or if not identical, to what was accomplished with all the other groups. I don't know if there's a member of the negotiating crew or committee that wants to talk any further about it, but I would recommend your approval of it.
I'll make a motion, we approve the changes to the 2019-21 support staff employment policies as presented.
Second.
So I'll make a motion, seconded by Jacob. Any further discussion on this one? Anybody? Since there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Carried. Okay, then we have the TIF application.
So the city is in the process of putting together a tax increment financing plan. It looks like they're going to do a housing, senior living component possibly downtown. I think it was a 47 unit.
Big.
So
That's over, not downtown.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, it's across 55, not downtown.
I think it's where the garden is right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or somewhere close there.
Across 55, on the south side of 55. And so there is no requirement for us to approve this. All that this is our opportunity. If board members have a compelling opinion or something that they want the board to express to the city as they go to consider this TIF plan, let me know, because then I just need to construct a letter that needs to go to them expressing our concerns if we have them. Okay? What does this mean exactly? So TIF plans, they're essentially set up to create tax credits in order to help finance development is what it is. And if you're wondering what is the dollar impact for the school district, I'm trying to find the page. 1 second. If you would go to page 12. Page 14. Over the life of this TIF plan, so it has a 20-year life, over the life of that plan, there would be $156,385 worth of school district property taxes that would be credited that the school district wouldn't see. What does that mean? Roughly, it's about $8,000 annually is what we would be forfeiting with this TIF plan. Now, it's $8,000 annually. However, there's value obviously in development, and if we have a 47-unit facility, that's going to bring additional people into town and stuff, and so there's value that can certainly offset that $8,000 annually. But that is the one question that I have usually received, is exactly what sort of property tax forfeiture are we looking at as a school district? And it's roughly $8,000.
And I missed it. Was this a 20-year?
It is a 20-year, correct?
So, but after the 20 years, the building isn't gone and it's taxable.
Exactly.
So it's I was on the Economic Development Authority when we were doing these things, and it's a net growth item. It doesn't really cost the district, but we have the gain, like Matt said, of all the people that could potentially come. Now, this is assisted living, but that also may be a place for somebody that can leave a home to open up a home for somebody new coming in.
I think there's so many layers to it.
Oh,
It
yeah,
also
it's huge.
offers employment.
It's jobs,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's multi-layered. And Bruce is exactly right. In here, they have the tax value right now. I believe the tax value is a little bit under $700, if I remember correctly. When the facility would be completed, the tax value of that same piece of property is estimated to be $3.3 million. So in the long run, it's going to be a net, in my opinion.
So anybody have some issues with that? Okay, then let's just move on.
So what I will do is I will just communicate with the city that we reviewed this today and that the board didn't have any concerns or questions that they wanted to put in writing to the manager of that TIF plan. Okay?
Then F would be policy second reading and approval for the student attendance policy. So we had that written once, we're back the second time. Anybody have any thoughts there? If none, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Thomas
I'll
to
second.
approve the policy 503, seconded by Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
May I add
Carried.
just one item
Yep.
on that? This is a little out of the ordinary, so I just want to make sure it's clear. We will continue this school year with the current student attendance policy. This new policy will be enacted starting with the 2021 school year. Okay?
Okay, then we have the seniority lists, and Matt, I'm gonna...
So we have 4 seniority lists in the district: food service, maintenance and custodial, paraprofessional, and the teacher seniority list. All of these are slightly nuanced in how many days they have to be posted and what date they have to be posted by. What I can assure the board is all of them have been posted, and the district office, or more specifically Linda, has not received any questions or challenges to any of the information that was posted on the seniority list. They've all been posted for the appropriate number of days according to the master agreement. It'd be my recommendation that we approve these as our official seniority list for the 1920 school year.
I'll make that motion to approve the food service, maintenance, custodial, paraprofessional, and teacher and seniority list as posted.
I'll second.
We have a second from Maggie. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Now,
Linda, could you email those to me, please? Sure. Thank you. For the sunshine fund. For the end of the year. Okay, thank you.
okay, then we are down to the indoor air quality project. And Matt, looks like from what he has there, is asking us how to proceed.
I'm looking for a little direction. So I believe the district has options in front of it. We talked about some options in September, and it's time that we need to get back to this question and figure out exactly how we're going to finalize that indoor air quality project.
So looking at the detail, I have mega questions, and I'm thinking everybody else might, but this is a facility thing, and I'm still leaning to get it back to the facility committee. We have 3 of us working on the design committee. Get this to those 3 people, and you guys analyze it, come back to us with a recommendation. Jacob, and Thomas and Cheryl are on that committee. I hope it's not redundant for yourself, but I think when we did the big bond, we all wanted to be involved because it was really big and it dragged out over a 3-year period of time. Something like this, I dug this out before I came, or this afternoon, and this is UNESCO's report. And all of the items listed are in here. A lot of that's done, but I don't know. My initial feel when I looked at it is some of the items I was checking that we were doing were highlighted in green. Well, I'm not sure I'm getting the interpretation of the green and red and the yellow here. So I think that's just my thought. Anybody else got thoughts there? Do we want to struggle with this as a whole board? And it's going to be most likely at our first meeting of the month. What's,
You think, I mean, is this a whole board worthy or a committee worthy or?
I am open to whatever. I think the board has options in front of it. I think the real question it just is, what is the direction or strategy that the district wants to go to be able to complete this work? I think that's really what it comes down to. You know, there are options, and somehow we have to figure out which of those options is the direction that we want to pursue.
And by options, you're talking about funding more than the work itself. And your concern, our concern would be the work itself.
I think we have to look at the...
And what the cost is.
Yeah, so that we know there's an issue there. We talked about that. We know that the air handler doesn't work above the gymnasium because somebody put a ceiling over the top of the vents. Well, okay, maybe we cut that open. So Matt and I had a brief discussion where, what do we do for this year? Nothing's going to happen, right? If there's something going on, what can we do? Cutting the vents open can't be the end of the world, I wouldn't think, to get that air handler working. But I don't know, I look at all of us, we had so many meetings on that other project that I just have a feeling that, how do we do this? I just did a simple thing today. I took this, I took the map that they had. It's $32,000 a classroom is what their million something. They had $1 million something for this air handler thing with the dehumidification. There's other stuff in there. Some of the joints that have to be replaced. So that list that Matt had there is kind of a complete list of various things. Some of those we just have to fix. You know what I mean? So it's not all out there, but is there an alternative to that? What is that alternative? What would the cost be? I know when they put this report together, again, we didn't even have them working with us at that time. This is a gratis, it looked like to me, and it was very complete. I have questions of people questioning this as compared to the other projects still.
So I have a question. So are you questioning the particular items that the district is saying we need to do? Is that what you're questioning?
Well, we don't have a list. I don't see it. I see a list of some items, but they're
Right.
quite general. I went to this sheet that they had to look at it. Are there other options? I have not seen in life where there aren't a lot of options. We aren't in the original option that we thought for the project that we just passed. Okay, a whole bunch of things shifted gears when the public told us how much money they were interested in spending. So we're doing a project, it's different. It's not pre-stretched concrete, it's a steel building for parts of it, but we have done it. I just don't know how we want to handle that. I mean, is that better committee oriented? So piles of discussions are taking place in the committee for you guys to kind of update us as what you're thinking and what the alternatives are? Or do we just look at this and say, yep, let's spend $3.2 million?
Well, do we need to approve the dollar amount first? So like with the big project, we approved the dollar amount and then we went into the details. We didn't go from the details to the dollar amount, so
This
we
would
don't
be,
need-
this would be reverse.
right.
Our
It
details
is
drive the
reverse of
dollar
what we
amount.
just did.
Well, I know that we replaced a lot of steam traps, but it lists steam traps replacement in this amount. And I know we've been replacing LED lights for other lights. Is this the ones that haven't been replaced, or, you know, are they being replaced as we go? Do we eliminate some of that? I just wonder how much has been done, and if there are options to the classroom fixture that's proposed that would work as well, but may not be as expensive.
I think what you're going to find is there are options, but the ones that are less expensive are going to present the same problems that we have today. And I think that's really where the discussion has been up to this point. I mean, it's a combination of things, because yes, you can go and solve your CO2 issue by pumping more fresh air into a space, but that doesn't necessarily take care of any of the comfort issues. And if it's in May of the year and it's humid and you're pumping all kinds of fresh air in that's humid, it's not going to improve the air quality. Your CO2 is going to be lower and it's going to solve that issue, but you're going to bring in a couple of other issues now because you're pumping damp, moist air into a building. And so I would caution everybody, if the strategy is let's go and re-tackle this so that we can get it to cost less, I think that has been vetted to this point. And if that needs to be redone, then let's redo it. But let's get redoing. And I don't know how many times we'll redo it, but let's get going and move on it. You know, what is in that proposal that we looked at in September, I would not classify that as a best solution. I would classify that as somewhere between good and better is where that one would fall. But by no means would I say that that's best. So,
I mean, theoretically, when could we get started on this? I mean, the quickest I mean.
well, I think it only makes sense because we're going to have an opportunity here to be able to capitalize on work already being done.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to have at least a good portion of this building that's going to be on the verge of being torn apart. And so the work that we're going to need to do here that is in there, like LED lighting and stuff, it makes sense to do that when we have things taken apart. Likewise, at the elementary school, when they start extracting boilers and putting new boilers in and all of that stuff, it makes sense to do some other things like updating the 1961 electrical panel. And so, yeah, there's some pieces here where now's the time to do that. Does that mean that you can't wait and do it 2 years from now? You sure could. It's not going to cost you any less 2 years from now than it is now.
I would think you'd want to start on that soon, though, wouldn't you? I mean,
Is there benefit, so if we go to bid in January for the rest of the project, even though this isn't part of the project, can we pair them together? And would there be
Absolutely.
savings? So we're going
Yes.
to particular vendors, they're coming in,
Yes.
so that would create potentially some urgency. And I think my recommendation would be, I think there are a lot of questions, and to make everybody, like, could we all put our questions together? Could the committee meet once or twice quickly and discuss and answer it in a smaller group and come back? I mean, that might be a solution, so that, you know, we don't spend board meeting after board meeting kind of going around in circles, but if we had specific questions, you know, they can look at it in a quick time frame. I mean, that might be a way to handle it. Because I do feel like there's lots of questions
I think committee
from
work
people
is
in.
appropriate, you know, rather than all of us go around in
Right.
circles, have the committee, what we are here for, you know, to work on this.
Right. And then if we have a goal that we want to go to bid in January with the rest, maybe that's not a goal, but if that's going to save us money in the long run, then at least we would have a time frame to say, let's have a recommendation by. Because I would think it would make sense to go to bid at the same time, but.
I think the biggest question is that there were no, I'm sure this was all hashed out and all talked over and you came to a conclusion, but there were no board members at those meetings to hear why it was hashed out and why it was chosen certain areas. And doing our due diligence for our voters, the board needs to be more involved with a little bit of the nitty-gritty. That was my thought. There's just, there are some questions about the deep down stuff that we just really didn't hear. Not that it wasn't done.
Well, I recall having UNESCO out at multiple work sessions reviewing exactly what you're holding on to right there. And that is where the scope of work is coming from. It's not some random material outside of that. It has been taking those workshops that UNESCO has been out with the board and refining them and getting them to a point where it's something that we think is fundable. Because honestly, if we wanted to just take all of our needs and go tackle them, I mean, you're talking over $25 million. And it's not realistic.
When we started this, there was a period of time we were up around $30 million to have everything done.
Yep.
Okay, so we go through that process. We decide that we're going to ask the public what they think, right? And they told us 16 million. Now, there's variances there. Some want to say it's 16 million. Some want to say that that's the price per on their taxes. I happen to always look at things at a total value. Well, in essence, all of that 32 million was 16, and now this is 3. But I remember them coming in, they had a nice presentation. It was quite a bit of stuff. There was a discussion about the secondary school. How much money do we want to stick in there? What is the decision with that really?
The elementary school, you mean?
Or the elementary school, yeah. Do we stay there? You throw $10 million. I think the number was in that $10 million just for that school, because it was all the oldest. Well, how can you justify it if you have to move on from growth, which is happening right now? What do we do? Do we just throw that money away? And I think there were some questions about that. But I'm not sure that, I've not really spent a lot of time vetting it. I have information here, but I don't know that I need to. It was just my thought to get it to committee. But you guys are on the committee. What
I
do you
think that's
guys
fine.
think?
I think having a committee is a perfectly appropriate way to go about it.
And you guys,
I guess I don't know that I see that the cost is going to be drastically different one way or another, committee meeting or not. My biggest concern, myself personally, is how we decide to fund it, where we pull the money from. I still have a big issue with taking 70-80% of our LTFM dollars every year for the next how many years?
We wouldn't be taking 80%. So
whatever it is.
38% is far different than 80%.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it's not.
Well, we get what, $230,000 a year?
We get 284.
284, so we have 134,000 left. So we have 56%, whatever it would be, somewhere in that range. So we're taking half our LTFM dollars every year. We've got roofs that need repair every year. We've got many other things that need repair that we use that LTFM dollars for. We used all our money this last year, and now we're saying we're going to use less than half of it every year for the next how many years? We can committee and go through and find the better to best option or good to better option of what we want to replace in our facility. And it's probably we're still going to come up around $3 million. How do we fund it? I guess that's where when we had our discussions in September, that's where I was hung up, and that's where I guess I'm still hung up, is what we need to do to our facilities and how are we going to spend it.
And we have options for that. We do.
So nobody's in disagreement that this needs to be addressed? Or is that a question that people have?
I'm
or-
not in disagreement about it being addressed. We did this at the tail end of the winter, right? You now have a little time. The heaters are all that are going to go on here pretty quick. And if there's more testing that they want to do, I don't want to do something that isn't gonna work. So, and I don't think there's anybody that wants the kids to be in an environment that isn't where they should be at.
I guess I'm not.
Whether it's hot or cool.
I wasn't concerned
We've been dealing with that forever.
how UNESCO presented that they were gonna do something that would not work. I don't know, so is that, I mean, is that a concern then? Is that we're not maybe trusting the recommendation? Or I'm just trying to figure out what the actual question
It's
is
$3
that we're,
million.
like.
$3.2 million
so
on
that
top of
is
16 million.
your-
There's no
so that's
getting
your
around
question.
this thing. We're
Right.
gonna tell the public, we just now spent $19 million. And a lot of this is in here.
But to be fair, Bruce, I mean, every day, the district is spending taxpayers' dollars.
Right.
I mean, every day, we're spending taxpayer dollars.
So this is the only thing that went to everybody. So I hear about these committees that we had and the meetings that we announced all the stuff. But if you get right in here, on page 3, it will tell you what we're talking about right here. And so for the public, they saw this. And it says right here, 3 key areas, improvement in 3 key areas. Now, all of this can be interpreted in different methods, but what we're talking about is there. I, as a school board member, wasn't expecting another $3 million. I'm being dead honest with you. It surprised me. It surprised me we went from 32 million, then we had 28 and 24 and all these options for the public. We got 16 and so much got done, but I read the same as everybody else did. I don't think I'm any special person. I didn't try to read into that a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't there, but it says additionally the district would address indoor air quality concerns at the elementary school. The project also remodels over 10,000 square feet of career and technical education. And then down below it talks about mechanical infrastructure improvements. Well, it does say additionally. Well, what was the meaning of additionally? Did that mean another $3 million? I didn't pick that up. I'm going to be dead honest with you.
So then your question is questioning, do we even spend the 3 million? Your question, Thomas, is more of if we were to spend it, what, I mean, so it seems like there's just lots of different types of questions here. Like, it's not even the same question, if I'm understanding it correctly.
And I'm confused too. Bruce, if you're saying that you see this all as one project, that we voted for 16 million, but we're gonna go to 19 million. Is that what you see the public looking at us? Because I see it as they voted for a $16 million project, which we're doing over here.
Right, that's,
This is a $3 million project, which we also have to do. Which really is, to me, it's separate from the other project.
That's what I would like.
right.
Yeah,
I would like to see it, but I'd like to know what it is. But $3 million is a hunk of change.
right.
This school board, long before us, had an issue where they committed us for 16 million, and it can all be done without a vote. There's a fair amount of the public remembers all that.
I think one of the questions that one of the responses to be made to anybody who would question is say, if the 16 million had not passed, would we still be trying to go ahead with 3 million?
The answer to that is yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the answer is yes. This is something,
100%.
or we would have to have done something
Right.
to solve some of these problems, no matter what.
And I think it's a fair question that you raised on the elementary school on how long is that school going to be there? But on the other hand, so is 10 years acceptable? Is 15 years acceptable? 20 years? I mean, these are still kids living and breathing
We're
in
not
that
fixing
space.
that. We aren't changing all the piping. There's a lot of trouble in that school
Right.
that we're not even addressing in this $3 million. So, do you see what I'm saying? Well, I don't know what the number is. I actually don't know what the public thinks about it. I know of a few people that have commented, but it's just like when we did the survey. Survey came back a little different than I would have thought. But we banked on that whole survey to get that big project done. Now you're sitting looking down the throat of another 3 million. That we can get it done? Sure we can. Matt has it all set. We don't need anybody's approval to do this. It's just not a bad idea to have the transparency out and a fair amount out to the public so they know what's going on too.
So do we think this should go to the committee? And, I mean, if we have questions, maybe
We
come
had an
back with
opportunity in the
it.
community to meet and review the project as a whole for the $3 million, and whether it's UNESCO sitting down with us to give us all the bells and whistles and understand exactly what that $3 million is going to give us, and do that between now and the November business meeting,
How about the November work
a
session?
work session.
Work session.
Yeah.
I think that would help. I mean,
Yep.
that might answer a lot of questions.
Is that a motion?
You need a motion for that,
I
or?
don't think we need.
Does-
I think-
And does that
Yeah.
answer your question?
Yeah,
Chris?
Matt was just asking
Yeah, we'll
about
meet up.
how do we proceed?
Okay.
And like, if we have other questions, I think we should get that to the committee so that we can, if we have questions, let's get those answered so that
Yep.
then we're informed at the work session.
There's a part of it that's interesting to me, that there is enough savings in this thing, so it offsets a fair amount when you got into a little bit more detail. So it's not like a total exposure for the public. We have to go on the hook for this bond, but there was energy savings that were gonna come into that. But unlike a previous version, this one had to be verified, and those folks had to, whatever they had to do to stand behind it. So I just don't know how it all plays out.
Right. And that, I mean, I think important thing is too, the taxpayers are not paying any more than they were told in August. Like, this is not increasing the taxes of what they were projected to pay,
Correct.
which I think is important.
It could
Like,
actually
it's-
be a tax decrease.
And I think, most people, I think that's what they care about. What is coming out of my paycheck? Is it more or less than what I was told? And if it's more, I think then we have problems. But I think if it's equal or less, I don't know. I could be wrong on that. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. I'm mostly
Well,
care
there's
about what's
people that
coming
buy
out of.
vehicles on the payment of the vehicle, not on how much debt load they're gonna put on. And society
Yeah.
does it on a monthly basis. So that's, may not be the way that I would look at it, but
Yeah.
some of society is that way.
Can you email me your questions, please? And then I will just put those together for that committee agenda.
Because other things too, like the softball fields aren't going on the project. I mean, that was talked about as part of the project, but so there are components and pieces that I hope the public knows will and will not be part of that original project. Like, the softball fields are not part of that 16 million either. But that was I mean, the meetings I was with, that was communicated
Yes.
to.
Yes.
So I felt comfortable with that, because I'm like, that is how it was communicated. But I think it is on how everybody heard it or interpreted it as well,
I
potentially.
think we brought that up several times,
Mhm.
hoping that it would get out to the
Right.
public correctly, even though it was
Right.
mentioned in the meetings.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, move that to committee. Then we got the Minnesota State High School League.
So this grant application, this actually will go to the Central Minnesota Conference. The way this works is every year, there's a rotating presidency for the athletic conference, activities conference. And this year, Paynesville happens to be in the president's seat. And so whichever district is the residing president, they will submit this form on behalf of the conference. And then the funds actually will go to the conference. One of the things that the primary use of these dollars is for a leadership conference that the Athletic Activities Conference puts on each year. That's what the primary source of these funds are. Come February, you're going to see another Minnesota State High School League Foundation grant. That one is a grant that those funds will stay here at Paynesville area schools, and we will be able to use those for hardship, scholarship situations for students that may be prohibited from participating in activities because of cost. That's the dollars that we would keep locally.
I'm curious about that. How is that communicated to, like, students and parents? And do people feel comfortable applying for those scholarships? Just out of curiosity, how does that?
That is always the tough piece, is how to get that word out. I'll be frank with you, a lot of times it is word of mouth. that so-and-so is not participating because they can't afford the fee, and then somebody tracks them down and we figure out a way to have a conversation with them to make sure that they understand that that fee is not something that's going to keep them from participating in activity. If there's other better ways to communicate that, if there's other ways to get people to contact us and let us know that they'd be interested in something like that, I'm all ears.
I'm assuming all the teachers and paras know about this because they're the ones that are probably closest and coaches closest to the students that could say, hey,
Yeah, I
why
think
is the student not-
there's ways right now that if there's conversations, if teachers or any staff member is hearing that students aren't participating
Right.
because of this hardship or that, I
They come
think they're
forward.
pretty good about
Good.
communicating that with the appropriate colleagues
Okay.
and being able to bring that forward.
Okay, do we have a motion for a resolution of school board supporting Form A application to Minnesota State High School League
I'll make that
Foundation?
motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Cheryl,
I'll second.
a second from Maggie. Any further discussion? Okay, this is a resolution, so Linda, we're with you.
Jacob?
Hi.
Rick?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
Maggie?
Aye.
Bruce?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Okay, passed. Okay, then we're going to move to review of, well, we were on the tail end already. Wow.
7:10 ahead of that.
So,
Right on
review
time.
upcoming meetings. I think you mentioned already the 28th.
28th will be design team, 8:30 a.m. right here. 29th will be the city council work session, 5 p.m. Again, my recommendation would be not to have a quorum. If you're interested, please let me know. If we do have a quorum, I don't know, I guess someone's gonna have to arm wrestle for it. I'm not sure what we'll do. October 30th, West Central Ed meeting. It's in Melrose, 6:30 p.m. I think maybe there might be an invite that goes out that's actually earlier than that to get a little tour of the remodel.
We already got that invite.
Wonderful,
Yep.
great. November 11th will be our work and learn meeting, 6 p.m. here.
That's a Monday.
Well, then it's not going to be November 11th.
I've got that should be the 12th.
Then it would be the 12th. Good catch, thank you. November 12th will be work and learn at 6 p.m. here, and 26th will be our business meeting. Let's schedule that committee meeting right now too.
Later evenings are great for me.
Could we meet on the 29th of October?
Or
Is
That's your
anybody
work
opposed?
session.
Works for me.
Works for Cheryl, Thomas?
Yeah, I can make
what
that.
time?
7 p.m.?
7.
Ooh, I have a county board meeting,
What time's that?
6:30.
What time are you done?
10.
Let's do another day.
That's a little late.
28th?
Probably do it.
7 p.m. on the 28th?
Yeah, I'll make
8 p.m. on the 28th?
it. That'd be better. Because we have that design committee meeting in the morning, so I'm already going to be running to work late and leaving early, so.
Cheryl, would you be okay with 8 p.m.?
On the 28th?
Yeah.
Yep, that works for me.
Okay, my office.
You'll send the invite.
Yep.
All right.
And then can we get one more on the calendar?
Do the 4th sometime. I have to be, basically.
We do the 5th? Tuesday, the 5th of November? Can we do 7 p.m.? Cheryl?
Yep, that works. Would you
All right.
email me those, please?
I
Make
will
sure
add an
next-
invite, yep, I'll add an
Thank you.
invite. It probably won't happen until tomorrow morning
Thank
though,
you.
but I'll add.
Just in case my clumsy fingers got it on my phone wrong.
So then who was that replaced Lou?
Oh, yeah, I move we adjourn.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second from Thomas?
You're
Any
married
further-
now, you just like.
I know,
discussion?
exactly, I just like that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Carried.
When you weren't here, we almost didn't adjourn.